All right, gentlemen and ladies, of course, the long-awaited video regarding my height maxing protocol. Some of you might have seen some stuff on my Instagram about this in the past. Over this summer, about 6 months ago, I decided that, you know what? I'm going to try to do the impossible. I'm going to try to grow taller as an adult. And this led me down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out various methods and theories as to exactly how to do this. And I want to give full credit where credit is due. I found out about this method through Cyzz's YouTube channel, spelled C-Y-Z-Z. He's been pretty inactive on his YouTube channel as of the last multiple months. Sizz, if you're watching this, bro, come back. We need an update. But basically, I've been doing banded sleeping essentially for the last around 6 months, and my starting point evening height was pretty much exactly 5'10", and now I am in the evening about 5'11" and 1/4. Now, I just want to make it very, very clear. I do not think that this is really any substantial amount of actual bone growth or actual permanent changes to my spine and shit like that, okay? I believe that the majority of these gains have been correction in posture due to banded sleeping, as well as maybe some, in a sense, temporary spinal decompression that maybe if I were to quit banded sleeping for a few months, I would shrink back down to regular size. So I'm not going to be like, yo, this shit fucking works 100%, but this is just still in theory. I plan on doing this for a very long time. Like I said, I've been doing it for about 6 months pretty consistently now. And I plan on doing this for a minimum of the next 5 years. And just to kind of give you an idea of like goal that I'm aiming for when it comes to like height increase for like compared to time, the ratio between time invested and actual results, I would be very happy if I could get consistently 1/4 of an inch of permanent growth per year. And I know that might seem like not a lot, but let's say somebody was to start doing this at the age of 18 all the way until they were 30 years old. That is a very substantial increase in height. That's a whole fucking limb lengthening surgery. And as I'm about to get into, the actual method to doing this requires very little extra time investment, okay? Basically, it's doing the work for you as you sleep. Some other information regarding, I guess, my experience so far with banded sleeping for the purpose of growing essentially as an adult is that the gains have slowed down a lot. So in the first 3 months, I gained about an inch, okay, of evening height. And not over the last 3 months, I have gained about 1/4 of an inch, okay? So it is very rapidly slowed down my progression, but I'm still seeing consistent growth. I don't know if this is kind of like a newbie gain stage. Like I said, maybe a lot of just like posture correction, some temporary, in a sense, spinal decompression. And I think now I'm kind of getting to the point where we're actually going to find out over the, next multiple years, extended period of time, whether this shit is actually viable for making you actually grow, as in bone, cartilage, spinal disc, thickening, all this kind of shit. So basically, to get into the setup, I'll throw up on the screen. Basically, I've attached multiple resistance bands to my bed frame, and I wrap them up over the end of my bed, attaching to ankle straps through carabiners and whatnot, and I can essentially snap these onto my ankles and then crawl into bed, and then also attach this, kind of jerry-rigged fucking cervical neck extender to my head and, pull it to stretch me out. It's a very, very good stretch, and basically try to fall asleep doing this, okay? So some other information as to when I first started this, it was very, very difficult for me to fall asleep, okay? I imagine, like with everything, imagine you're using a CPAP machine that you sleep with at night. Anything that's like different that alters your kind of, sense of comfort while you're trying to fall asleep, when you're not used to it, is going to make it, like I said, very difficult to fall asleep. So for me, it took me like probably 3 weeks to a full month of like trying to fall asleep every night before I was actually able to sleep a whole night through and have like actually decent sleep. I am a side sleeper. I've been a side sleeper my whole life. So number one, this forces you to sleep on your back. And to me, that was very unnatural. Like I said, I am a diehard side sleeper. I wish I wasn't like that. Like I mentioned in my previous video, I think me sleeping on my right side basically every night for my whole fucking life led to some severe asymmetries in my face, which I am now only going to be able to correct with surgery, which I have planned coming up in the next few months. But yeah, sleeping on my back was very new and uncomfortable for me. Not to mention just the fact that you're being stretched. You have this thing on your fucking head. You have the obviously resistance bands pulling on you from your ankles. It's quite uncomfortable when you are first trying to do this. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first started doing this, I was like, dude, there is no fucking way I'm gonna be able to fall asleep and like get used to this. You know what I'm saying? Basically what I would do is I would put it on, get in my bed and just lay there like on the verge of falling asleep for like 4 hours before I would just be like, what the fuck? And just like rip it off of me and then go to sleep. And basically I got to the point of being so tired after just getting shitty sleep, because of having all this shit attached to me. It was kind of a buildup of like multiple weeks. And then finally, I was just like so tired that I was able to sleep through a whole night. But then that kind of opened up my mind to like, okay, I know it's possible. I know it's possible now for me to sleep a whole night with this shit on. And that I think kind of helped me mentally to be able to be like, okay, it's possible. So now let's keep trying. And then now I'm pretty much at the point where I'm used to it and I can fall asleep and sleep the whole night through. But I'm not going to downplay it. It was very, very difficult to get used to this when I was first starting. Now, getting into some other kind of like preparatory shit that I do before I actually get in bed and attach the banded sleeping stuff. I hang from a pull-up bar for a few minutes to kind of just like decompress my spine before I get into bed and attach the banded sleeping setup. I also do the same thing for my neck. I have a little setup in my garage where I can really put a lot of weight, my whole kind of body weight, to stretch out my neck. It usually pops a few times. Actually feels pretty fucking good. But just my kind of thought process of why I'm doing this is like I want to kind of, just in those few minutes of kind of exercises, I guess you could call them, before I actually attach the banded sleeping setup, is like I kind of want to decompress my spine after a full day of walking around and having gravity pushing down and decompressing me. Kind of want to do a little bit of decompression before attaching the setup, so that maybe when I kind of tighten the setup, I can get a little bit more out of it and get a little bit more into an elongated state before I fall asleep. I've also kind of off and on been doing, I guess, micro fracturing methods, as in like kicking a heavy bag, doing stomps on the ground. I don't really know if this is having that big of an effect. I've kind of been really inconsistent with that lately. But that is something else that, like, why not fucking throw it in and try? I know everybody has this kind of micro fracture to get taller, which, in my opinion, according to science, doesn't really fucking make sense. But it could possibly make sense if you cause micro damages to your bones, and then, over time, kind of like healing. Your body does the most healing while you're asleep, releases the most GH, all this kind of shit while you're asleep. And so therefore it's like over time, maybe you could actually get a measurable amount of lengthening of the bone if you heal while you're asleep in this elongated state due to banded sleeping, where there is a force being applied, vertically stretching your body out. Okay. Another thing I want to cover is the fact that you can actually get taller. This is not like as an adult. This has been done by astronauts. Okay. So astronauts, they'll go to like the International Space Station, spend a few months there. And then when they come back, they're usually, on average, they can be 1 inch to even 2 inches taller. Now, over time, of being back on Earth with normal gravity, that kind of spinal decompression that happened while they were in space over the next few months, they usually return back to normal. But this just kind of goes to show that, like, people can increase their height kind of in, I guess, a little bit of a frauding way, as in it's not necessarily bone and actual cartilage and whatnot, but this is a proven thing where people go to space, they come back, they're taller, and it does take a little bit of time, usually multiple months, before they return back to their normal state. So if you can kind of, combat the, I guess, forces of gravity during your day of walking around by, applying a rather significant force, elongating you while you sleep, maybe you can kind of get the same results as like somebody who is in a zero gravity, living environment. You could kind of maybe get some of those temporary gains, but are only, not necessarily temporarily, because if you continue doing the banded sleeping, you might be able to maintain those gains. And I also do think there are other benefits to banded sleeping. Attaching the cervical neck strap basically forces you to nasal breathe while you're asleep, which is good for facial development. And it also pretty much makes you mew, okay? It makes your tongue press up against the roof of your mouth because the little strap kind of goes under here, and it basically forces you to mew and nasal breathe while you're asleep. So that could be a very positive, like, beneficial thing for a lot of people that struggle with like mouth breathing while they're asleep. And it also forces you to sleep on your back, which can, help improve asymmetries and prevent, developing asymmetries, right? Like I said, I believe that my facial asymmetries were developed due to sleeping only on my right side for my whole fucking life. And, I think it's too late for me to really necessarily reverse that without a surgery. But, this could be used as maybe a possible preventative measure. As well, just decompression on your whole body and spine can be fucking good for you. I don't see why this would be like a negative thing. Obviously, don't like do it to the point of injury or something, like, stretch yourself out so bad that it feels like something is about to get hurt. But I do think that there is some kind of relief maybe to back pain, or maybe even slight over time correction to something like slight scoliosis. I don't know if banded sleeping has ever been like thought of as being a possible treatment for people with scoliosis, but I don't see why it couldn't, especially when you attach something to your neck and your ankles that is vertically pulling you for an extended period of time, 8, 9, 10 hours while you're asleep. I don't see why this would harm you in any sense, obviously if you don't like do too high of tensions, which I do. Compared to Sis, if you go and watch his videos, I do a lot more tension, okay? He attached bands under his arms. I tried that and I was like, I feel like this isn't doing shit. So I had the idea to attach, like I said, the cervical neck extender thing, and jerry-rigged that setup so that I could elongate my, spine kind of that way. And to me, I feel much, much more stretched out while I get in, when I get in bed compared to when I was putting the bands like under my arms. So yeah, that's just kind of some other thoughts that I have regarding this. But like I said, guys, I don't know for sure if this shit actually fucking works, as in it's actually going to change your bone structure, or make your spinal discs like thicker over time. I think that there's a great possibility that it could. And that's why I'm going to keep doing it. Like I said, once you get used to falling asleep with this shit on, it's really not a big investment. It takes fucking a minute or two to attach the shit to you, and then you just crawl in bed, go to sleep, wake up, take it off. It's really not that big of an investment. So I think the biggest kind of hurdle with this is just getting used to it at the beginning to the point that you can fall asleep. But honestly, like, even if it doesn't give you like actual permanent bone changes, I think you can definitely gain some height just due to spinal decompression because of it, posture correction. And it can also help with other things. Like I said, maybe improve your facial structure because it forces you to sleep on your back, nasal breathe as well as mew and have proper tongue posture all at the same time. So I think that this is a very beneficial thing that I'm going to continue to do, even if the, height gains really are negligible and not really existent in the future. I think it's still something that I'm going to do. So yeah, you guys go and kind of make your own fucking setup. See if you can get used to it and try it out, because the more people that we can get as a sample size to experiment with this, we might actually be able to come to the conclusion that this is a viable way as an adult to increase your height permanently. That is still to be determined, but like I said, I plan on doing this for the next 5 years at least, so we'll see. I'll make updates, probably not very often, just because the height changes are going to be pretty, slow, I'd imagine, if it gets to the point of like kind of being past this newbie gains, posture correction, spinal decompression stage, which I think I'm on the tail end of right now. I imagine actual tissue lengthening will be a rather slow process that will, really become apparent over multiple years of doing this. So, yeah, I'll make updates and shit, but that's just kind of some insight into the height maxing thing. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to improve your looks and want to work with me one-on-one, like I said, I will never be making money by selling some fucking bullshit course. But the link to work with me one-on-one will be in the description. I can help you out with a lot of things like improving your looks, hormone protocols, dating, cold approaching women, mindset confidence. If you need somebody to be on your ass and come up with a plan that is directly tailored for you to help you in your situation in life to improve your quality of life by becoming better looking, getting better with women, all these kind of things. Link to that will be in the description. And also the link to my Instagram will be in the description. Follow me on there, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Goodbye.